Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can make a sweater just like this using this texture pack that I've created, and I put a link to it in my Gumroad store down below. You're going to find 3 files in there. There'll be the front panel, the sleeve, and the cuffs and collars. Okay, let's jump in. I want to show you the garment first. It's a simple garment, just basic sleeves, bodice front and back, collar and cuffs. I'll show you how to do that in a separate video, but if you're trying to add textures and dimensions to your project, here's how. Okay, to start with, I've replaced all of my fabrics with a plain white fabric. I'm going to go up to my render window and open that. Make sure to start the interactive render, and you may have to hit stop and then restart occasionally when some of your textures aren't going to update immediately. So let's do the front first. I'm going to make a new fabric for each one of these. So I hit add and name them. When you're in the fabric or property editor, you first want to go to the back material and make sure that use same material as front is turned off. Same thing for the side. Go back to the front tab. In the property editor, you're going to have a texture file, a normal map file, and a displacement map file. We're going to replace those with the files that you've downloaded from my Gumroad store. It'll open your file browser, and this is the texture file for the front. When you bring it in, you're going to want to have transformation open down here, and I'm going to set this to 50%. You can change the scale of all of these as you go. Before you get any further, make sure to drag this fabric onto the avatar over here so you can see it update. Again, I may have to hit stop and then restart the interactive. Okay, now it's open. You see there's a seam across the bust, and I need the center line to be moved over. So down here in the parameters, go to the transform controls, and I have these parameters set already. -5, the X moves it back and forth, and Y moves it up and down. You may have to fiddle around with these a little bit to get yours to sit correctly. Next thing you'll want to do is go to the normal map and add that. This looks like this purplish color. Open the transform and apply the same parameters here. -5 and 9. The normal map is going to add a little bit of shadow in the wrinkles and folds. Now last one, go to displacement map, and this one's black and white and gray. And within this one, we're going to do a transform to start with, because we already know it needs to be 50%, -5 in the X position, and 9 in the Y position. But let me zoom in and show you the next part. When we get close to the collar and here, you're going to see a big change. So if I change the displacement amount to something really big, let's do 9 for example, you can see everything bumps off the surface. Now that's quite a lot. We don't need that much. So I'm going to go back and change it to 2. You also see there's a little bit of a gap here. This is shift, and you want to put a negative value here. I'm going to put -1, and it should bump it back enough. So it still is displaced, and you now have a map for that. So last thing I'm going to do is the color down here at the very bottom. I've changed all of mine to gray. I just think that's a good color. It's like a subcolor basically, and it darkens everything up. If you don't like that, you can always go and choose a different color. Okay, let's do the collar next. I'm going to add the collar. I'm going to name it. I'm going to go up and I'm going to make sure that my back is turned off. I don't want to use the same material as the front because it will add kind of that same displacement on the back side and it will look funny. So I hit front, and the first thing I'm going to add is the texture. This is what the collar looks like. For the transformation, the scale is much smaller. I've made this an enormous file to cover an entire sweater, but for our purposes here, we just need it at 3. I'm going to drag and drop it onto the pattern, and we should see this update in a minute. Okay, that scale looks about right for the collar. I'll click back on the fabric, and then I'm going to go to the normal map next. I'm going to set that transformation to 3%. And then I'll go to the displacement. And for the displacement, I'm going to do 1. You also see that there's a weird edge, so we're going to get rid of that. This weird edge here is because the side is showing up white. So I'll go back up to the side parameter here, and I'm going to go down to color, and I'll change that. Now it won't show up as much. Also, let's change the front. And that creates that background color. I'll apply and close. So now we have the collar and the front all set up. Let's do the sleeves. We're going to follow the same process. Now I'm going to apply the collar to the waistband, and I'm going to apply the sleeve to the background because I think that looks good in my design. One thing I can't do for the cuff is use the collar because I will orient it the wrong way. Take a look here. See that it's going side to side. And I want that grain to go vertically like a real wristband. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of the collar. I'm going to select it up here, make a copy. Call it cuff, and now I'm going to go to the 2D 3D split window. I'm going to drag cuff onto the actual cuff here. I'm going to select the pattern and grab this tool. This is the edit texture tool. You'll have to click back on the pattern again to activate, and then I'm going to just rotate it so that my grains go this direction. Let's go back to the render window and see what it looks like. And there you have it. I hope you enjoy the free sweater textures I've provided in my Gumroad store. Good luck.